Hi, it's Darren for your interview. Still an okay time?
I'm good. Waiting for you to call. Perfect timing.
Well, my pleasure. This is probably one of the most chaotic times you've ever had to do an interview. Is that correct?
Well, in one way, yes, and in another way, no. So we're all kind of on lockdown. So it kind of forces you to reinvent your time. And so I've got lots of books. I'm taking out guitars I haven't played in a while and playing them. And generally trying to remain being a happy guy.
And from what I understand, Spirals is still coming out next month.
It is. I think that's pretty much a fait accompli. And I trust all things are meant to be the way they are supposed to be. And it'll be out there, and we'll see.
You take a song like The Mountain, and it was already a meaningful song, but it kind of takes on a new meaning given what we're going through right now.
Well, I guess you could say that. You know, I've been reluctant to take that position because, you know, I don't want it to sound like I'm saying, "Oh, here's the, you know, here's the remedy for the moment," and it just happens to be my new single. But I mean, you know, I think if the message in that song can help anybody along the way at whatever point we are in time, I think that's the purpose. You know, as a songwriter, it's always interesting. You know, it's a balance that you have to strike. You know, or I do personally anyway, within myself in terms of, you know, philosophizing in my songs. You know. As a young songwriter coming up, you know, I you know, it's kind of embedded and ingrained in me that, you know, as a songwriter, you know, don't preach, you know, and but, you know, I've been at it long enough to look back at myself and see who I am as a songwriter. And, you know, a lot of what I write about is, you know, personal philosophy or experience or observation. But I never do it with any kind of judgment. I just kind of put it out there as, what do you think of this? Or how about this point of view? But yeah.
Was the EP entirely written and recorded in a home studio kind of setup?
No. It was recorded at a studio in New York called Shelter Island Sound. Produced by a producer whose name is Steve Schiltz. And so no, it wasn't home. It, you know, Shelter Island Sound in New York is kind of a little bit of a gem in that it's it's big enough, but yet small enough to feel cozy, and you have everything you need there. And for me, as somebody who's been in recording studios for many, many years, it kind of, you know, it feels very nice to be in that environment. It's very familiar to me and conducive to, you know, spending a lot of time and it being enjoyable time and creative time.
And bringing up what you just did about being in studios pretty much your whole life, you had major cuts before your 21st birthday. Did you know that this was a career that early into your life?
Yes. I mean, I knew that it was a choice that I made early on, that I felt this is what I was called to do. This is where my passion lied. And I have always been a believer in following your passion. You know, I didn't. You know, I was, you know, I was very aggressive as a young person, you know, in terms of pursuing my dream and finding a way to make it work. You know, I wasn't always a big believer in my talent. You know, you know, I saw that I had plenty of room to grow, but I was committed to it. I felt I was called to it. And I think when you feel called to something, it's a wise choice to go after it. And so from you know, my early teens, I've kind of felt that this was going to be what I was going to do. Somewhere in the entertainment field. It was when I went to university, I was a theater major. So I always kind of had a sense that this is where I wanted to be.
You're somebody a person who reads music credits knows that you've worked with a lot of the biggest artists of all time of different genres and all that. And a lot more people learned who you are because of the recent Broadway musical. And we both know Jared Zerilli. Did you teach him bass at all in order for him to do that role?
No, my only direction to Jared was to keep doing push-ups so I looked good. So yeah, no, I didn't teach him any bass. We hung out a little bit so he could get a sense of who I am, and I can give him a little backstory as to who I was and whatever. But we in reality, Jared and I are very similar personality types, I would say, in my own estimation.
And do you 100% approve of the way that you are portrayed in that Broadway musical? I ask that because the people involved with Jersey Boys kind of feel like, well, this is from one person's perspective, per se.
I felt that the way I was portrayed was fair. Nothing's 100%, but it was a very reasonable and a fair. I don't have any problems with any of it where I would say, oh, that's not me. I would never do that kind of thing. Or I thought it was fairly accurate representation of the kind of person that I am.
I find the Brooklyn Dreams part of your career very interesting and exciting because all of you had success beyond that group. And you were part of Casablanca Records at a time when it was still growing, and of course Kiss was there and all that. When I recently interviewed Joey Travolta, I asked, had he ever met the members of Kiss? And he said, oh yeah, I met them at a Brooklyn Dream show. Was it a very family-oriented kind of label to be on?
In some ways. It's funny that Joey would remember that because I don't remember it, but which not to cast any aspersion on his memory because he's most definitely probably right. It's just that I don't remember. So what's the question? Casablanca, was it a family? In some ways, yeah. In some ways, yeah. It was truly a very exciting time. There was a lot of action, and I was somebody who always really enjoyed being around the activity of a record company back in those days because it was a very vibrant place, and there were many people functioning on many different levels, and but all engaged and all doing it with passion and with fire, and it's something that I always really liked, and it's a very big contrast for me these days when every now and then I'll have a meeting up at Universal Music or somewhere like that, and it's a completely different vibe of a record company of the way it used to be. It's just much more sober and much more business-like, and back in the Casablanca days and even before at Roulette, it was very vibrant. It was very alive. There was a lot of energy and a lot of passion for the music and a lot of commitment and a lot of artistry going on multiple levels.
Sounds like pros and cons to me. So bringing it back to you, Volume 2 of Spirals was mentioned in the press release. That is still pushing ahead as planned?
That is pushing ahead as planned. I'm currently back in Los Angeles on lockdown at home, but as of maybe 10 days ago, I was in New York for about a week, putting not the finishing touches, but close to final touches on Volume 2. So there's a bit more work to do, but that's really finalizing a few mixes, figuring out a sequence, mastering everything together. But as far as recording, I'm pretty much sure it's about done. So yeah, so that's in process. I've kind of have my plan laid out for the year on that level. I mean, other plans obviously have been derailed in terms of live performance and all that, but I'm hopefully by the fall, maybe live things will be happening again, and that process can continue. But it has been my kind of like year plan to get Volume 2 out and work that, through the end of the year. So there will be more videos to come, and on Volume 2, there's a duet with my daughter and her husband Johnnyswim on a song called "A Long Time to Get Here." So I'm looking forward to that, and there's some really nice things on Volume 2 as well. So yeah.
When I was working at Viacom a couple of years ago, everything was about Johnnyswim for about a year because they were the VH1 artist that was being featured on every single thing. They were playing in The Office. It was all Johnnyswim all the time. Do you think that we'll be seeing a proper collaborative EP between you and them at any point in the future?
I would say probably not. But I think that, it's that, like I'm sure there'll be collaborative things going forward because there have been in the past. I mean, they sang background on a song on one of my previous CDs a while ago. I was out on the road with them last year as their opening act, which was great fun and magical. And I'm sure that'll happen again at some time. And like I say, in Volume 2, there's a song where they sing with me on Volume 2. So yeah, who knows what the future holds? But we're a family. We're together a lot, and we encourage each other and create together when it makes sense.
Great. So being respectful of your time here, and because you've given me so much to work with, in closing, Bruce, any last words for the kids? Let's rewind to one of my opening statements, is that if you're lucky enough to find your passion, go with it, believe in it, if you're lucky enough to know what that is, whatever aspect it is, if it's writing code, if it's making pizza, whatever it is, pursue it with passion, do it to the best of your ability. Life is a long journey. You continue to evolve. You can continue to grow and refine what you do and evolve. So there you go. That's my statement for the kids.
Paltrocast.